Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has given us unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure or admire an old one. What will we find today? Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
I love how the Bible is divided into chapters and verses. It makes things so much easier to find. But we've got to remember that those divisions weren't there in the original. So studying chapters or verses alone doesn't give us the full picture of what's going on. We need to look at the context, or we're going to miss things. I just found something in Acts 12 that I never noticed before because I didn't put it in context with the end of chapter 11. But let's hop back to chapter 9 to get the full context. Acts 9 introduces us to an angry, murderous thug of the Jews named Saul. On his way to Damascus to persecute believers in who he considered a false prophet, he miraculously meets Jesus, and through a series of events becomes not only a Christian, but a preacher of the gospel. They even tried to kill him in Damascus, so he fled to Jerusalem, but the disciples there were all afraid of him. So Barnabas, the son of encouragement, took Saul under his wing and introduced him to the church. Again, Saul's boldness brought him death threats, so they sent him back home to Tarsus. It was here, a few years later, that Barnabas found Saul and brought him to Antioch, where he needed strong church leadership, as the church there was growing exponentially. At the end of chapter 11, the church of Antioch sends Barnabas and Saul to Jerusalem as ambassadors with money to help the Christians there during a famine. The story picks up in chapter 12 as Herod kills the disciple James and then imprisons Peter. But what I hadn't caught before was that Barnabas and Saul, later called Paul, were witnesses to what happened next. The believers in Jerusalem, which included Barnabas and Saul, gathered at John Mark's mom's house to pray for Peter, who Herod planned to kill the next morning. In the middle of their prayer meeting, Peter came knocking on the gate. At first they didn't even believe it was Peter, but then he told his story of how the angel had woken him up, walked him right past the guards, out the gate, and into the city. Among those rejoicing with Peter that night were Barnabas and Saul. We know that they were still in Jerusalem to witness these things because Acts 12:25 says, "And Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem when they had fulfilled their ministry, and took with them John Mark." So why did God have them witness this deliverance of Peter from prison? Because at the beginning of chapter 13, he calls the church of Antioch to set apart these two men to go as missionaries throughout the Roman Empire and spread the gospel. He knows what they're going to face. He knows they need to know the power of prayer and the power of God to deliver His children. As they began facing persecution, they needed to know that impossible situations were where God's power would be most evident. He always had everything under control. They needed to firmly believe that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we ask or think, as Paul would later write to the Ephesians. They had to realize God's glory was the goal in each situation. Now, we weren't there that night when Peter came knocking on the door, but we have eyewitness accounts of that and a multitude of other miracles throughout the Bible that should grow our faith. Not only that, but we have miracles big and small throughout our own lives that God has used to build our faith in Him as we learn His character and how He works. So the next time we face an impossible situation, we can confidently pray, knowing that impossible is God's specialty, and He is in control of every detail, every step.
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. We'd love to hear the treasures God has given you through His Word. You can listen to other episodes on our website, which you can find in the description below. Thank you for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.